I wanted to begin with what made you pursue a career in legal.
Yeah, sure. So it was, I guess, always this idea of advocacy, and it started off at a really young age. So, um, a bit of personal background. I was born to migrant parents that escaped Timor during the Indonesian invasion. I was fortunate to be born and raised in Melbourne, but I grew up in commissioned housing. So, I guess from a very early age, I was exposed to, I guess, what was a lot of limitation. I became I guess, an advocate for my own parents as well. That there was a lack of English skills. Became a natural, interpreter for legal government documents, calling the bank on their behalf. So it became instilled at me at a very early age this idea of advocating for people that weren't able to advocate for their own due to their personal limitations. And before uni, that's where the thought occurred to me. Being a lawyer was a profession where we had the privilege to utilise our set of skills and qualifications to actually help people. So it just came naturally to pursue a career in plaintiff law.
Yeah. Now you're also, and you mentioned in the notes you sent through to me, but a high school dropout at year 11. Tell me a bit about that, and because we don't hear too many lawyers that have dropped out of high school and then go on and do a law degree. Tell me a little bit more about that. What made you drop out, and then how did you get back in and then become a lawyer?
Yeah, so it was definitely quite a long pathway, Louise. So I was going through quite a difficult time as a 15-year-old in high school. I unfortunately mixed with the wrong crowd and didn't really fit in, and there was also a lot of tension between myself and my family, just from the cultural and generational gap and differences. So I did give up on high school when I was about 15 in year 11, mixed with the wrong crowd, and it came to a point where I was let down by those particular so-called friends at that time, and I had a bit of a turning point then due to some personal injustices where I thought to myself, I really do need to probably look at getting back into education, at least finishing year 12. And that's when getting into law was really something I wanted to pursue. But unfortunately, as a year 11 dropout, that wasn't viable. So I did return to high school, and I was told that given I missed quite a bit of my VCE, I was able to join my previous cohort but undertake VCAL. So I finished VCAL, and with VCAL, given that you're only doing 2 VCE units, you don't really graduate with a very high enter. So it became quite a long journey, and on reflection, it was about a 7-year journey actually, but it was at that point where I said to myself, I need, and I guess this is the Taurus in me and the stubbornness, and I thought to myself, I want to complete a law degree with Monash University, and it seems so far-fetched as a VCAL graduate really. So the first step was trying to actually get my foot into any university as a stepping stone, but without the ATA score, I couldn't even do that. So I spent 2 years at TAFE undertaking business courses, and just really set my eye on the goal of still pursuing a degree. And I did well enough to enter a arts and commerce degree with Deakin, but once again, it wasn't my preference, as I was still pursuing a law degree. So halfway through, I worked on my marks, and it was towards the end of the double degree that my marks were looking pretty good. So it just made sense to finish those double degrees and then apply for what was, the ultimate goal of completing a law degree. I was fortunate enough when I buckled down and studied hard to finish my double degree with a distinction average, which saw an entry into the Monash JD program. Looking back, yeah, it was definitely a longer journey that required, rather than going immediately from high school with the VCE enter score to then pursue Monash law. But now on reflection, given the troubles I had as a 15, 16-year-old, I don't think I would have been mature enough to undertake legal studies at about 18. So the exposure and life experiences and undertaking another 2 degrees prior really allowed me to mature as a person before I went on to do law. So it's definitely not the traditional pathway in terms of getting to to where I am, but I felt like it's been a lot more satisfying having to work towards that goal and I guess just really pushing through.
I love how you navigated through the system and to get to your end result or to your end goal, because a lot of people think that we need to do obviously VCE. I'm not saying anyone should drop out, but they think need to do VCE, get high marks, get into Melbourne Law or Monash, then apply for a top tier. But you did it differently, and it just, I suppose, shows that if you really, really want something, you'll find a way to get through it. So that's pretty awesome.
That's right. And I really do think the barriers that appear there are self-created. It really is. So I could have easily said to myself, it's just all a bit too hard. There's no way that I'll be able to enter, a law degree, but it's about breaking down those barriers step by step. And yes, it was a long process, but it just, you do end up enjoying the journey as much as the result.